so much, everyone who is joining today. I am so excited to share a very fun activity or series of activities talking all about stop motion movie making. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Got to make sure I share some sound. Perfect. So, hi everyone. Again, I've got my screen sharing. Zoom being updated has me learning a few new buttons, but I think we are good to go now. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Hannah Daniels. I am the MimioSTEM product manager today, and I actually have a background in animation. So, I went to school for animation. I specialized in 3D modeling, which is what got me into the 3D printing world. And here's a photo of me with our thesis color script, which is a part of making an animated movie from our thesis film. So I'm going to take a little bit of what I learned there, and while I specialized in visual effects or computer-generated animation rather than stop motion, there's still a lot of fun things you can do with stop motion in a school environment or other educational environment. So, what is stop motion animation? Essentially, it is filmmaking using physical objects. So it's not your old school Snow White hand-drawn every frame animation, nor is it modern Pixar style animation where it's all 3D models and you have computer rigs and these actual 3D creations are moving around. Instead, it is taking real objects that exist in the world and manipulating them so that they look like they're moving. And you do that by taking photos every time you adjust the pose and position of your characters, of your background, and so forth. Now, modern stop motion is done with a lot of green screen as well, so you can have some computer-generated components to it, or it can be all physical objects. So I've got some pictures here of some of the famous styles of stop motion animation, from some of these classics here to some more modern things over on the left. And so they use a lot of different mediums for this. Something like this looks like it's been wool, like wooled. This is made out of clay. This has actual fur and fabrics. The Coraline and Leica type movies are done actually using 3D printing. So there's a lot of different materials you can use as you go into stop motion. So how does it work? Essentially, you start with these complex character rigs, whether they're made out of clay or they're made out of armatures and so forth, and you move them a little bit and make an animated movie here. So I'm going to use a few different YouTube clips. You can see their credits on the side, just small sections of it, because they're giving really nice examples where you can see it being used at an industry level.
Leica is a specific software and 3D printing technology to create groundbreaking innovations in the field of stop motion.
You can see this rig.
Stop motion refers to a process of animation where a puppet, usually a wire or metal skeleton covered in foam or clay, is moved around in small increments by the animator. A photo is taken of each minute change to create an...
And then here is another one I wanted to show you, which is
Titan's head was animated this way. Animators fabricate replaceable parts of the head and face to create specific emotions that would otherwise not be possible with a single face.
So there's all of the different faces they use, and so you create all these different things and you trade them out as you're going to make it look like it's talking, make it look like it's moving.
More than 7.
So this one, I just wanted to show some of these very cool rigs right here at the beginning. This is on a whole moving background. You've got a green screen here. This one has multiple characters running and moving.
Stop motion animated movies have been...
Again, you can see a lot of the use of green screen here. So these are some of the rigs that help hold your objects up as you're moving them. Now, if you're doing this in your classroom, you're probably not going to be working with big complex rigs like this, but it's cool to see how the professionals do it. And you can still do some lower tech versions of this using things like 3D printers and 3D printing technology in your school or in your classroom. So, how to get started? I recommend starting by these sort of top-down animations. And you can do this of simple math processes, science processes, even little stories that you could tell that tie back to your history or language arts classes. The ones I'm showing on my screen here are ones that I've made over the years for my STEM kits to sort of show how the kits work. You can see all the pieces of the chromosomes here connecting, crossing over, and then, go into the full mitosis meiosis. Down here, we see the continents moving from sort of Pangea into their modern day placements. And on the right is a whole series of pictures combined into showing transcription and translation. Now, these are not necessarily full-blown, high-quality animations. They're just quick and easy type things that you can do in not very much time with your students, which is why I recommend doing something like this to get started so that they learn how stop motion works, and you can very easily tie it back to any wide range of subject area, whether you are in math, science, social studies, etc. So some practical tips I'm going to be throwing in throughout the session as well, which is one, use a tripod or 3D printed setup to make sure your camera is coming from the same spot for every shot, or at least every shot from that one camera angle. Now, just like in animated movies, you can have a straight on shot, and then you can have a different camera that has, this view of me and so forth, except in that case, the camera would be moving, not me. So I actually have my rig set up here that you can see in these photos. So a tripod, this is a very cheap $10, $20 tripod from a cell phone that I got at Walmart, I think. And it extends and it's great for just quick and easy doing this. But I realize you don't necessarily want to buy $10 tripods for every small group of students. So if you have a My STEM Kids account and you have a 3D printer already, you can go in and actually 3D print components for this straight top-down shot like this setup here, because this is actually just our planetary temperatures kit on My STEM Kits. I just took pre-existing components from one of our other kits and can set my phone up there and have a perfect straight down shot. Now you'll noticing I'm also using this green screen here, and if you notice on these photos, there are some nice lime green other 3D printed parts here, kind of propping my models up. So I'm using those kind of for my rigging, just in a very low-tech sort of a way. So I've mentioned my STEM kits. I'm going to put a link in the chat here for anyone who doesn't already have it, but I definitely saw some familiar names in the attendees here, so I know some of you already have access to this. You are welcome to go sign up for a trial with the coupon code I just dropped into the chat as well, and check it out. See what you've got there and go ahead and print this planetary temperatures kit or any of the other rigs and things that we might mention throughout this session. It has lots of 3D printables as well as content and curriculum. So how can you tie in 3D printing? You can use it for rigs and tripod type things. You can also use it for the characters themselves. So fidgets or articulated models are perfect for this. So if you go to thingiverse.com, very common 3D printing library, again, I've dropped that in the chat, and you type in the word articulated as your search bar, you will find loads of models that print all at the same time, but are actually connected to each other. So this printed all in one piece, but it has little loops that allow it to be movable and manipulatable, which is perfect for animation. Now, in addition to the ones on Thingiverse, My STEM Kits does have our own articulated fidgets, which is where this little whale came from, and the octopus. So again, there's that link here on the screen to mystemkits.com where you can get some of these articulated fidgets that we've made right from our website. So looking at my screen here, you can see a whole series of images where the whale is slowly swimming into frame, approaching the octopus. And then at the end, it sort of lifts its flipper up and waves. And throughout this, you'll notice there's a little bit of movement going on with the octopus's legs as well. So he's not just sitting perfectly still, he's doing a little wibbly wobbliness. So one practical tip on this is if you're going to be using a green screen like I did, to find or design your background, either image or video first. I will tell you, I did not do that in my sample animation that I created for this. And I found this awesome Creative Commons video of an underwater reef that I decided to use for my background. But it's taken more straight on. Whereas you can see from my camera angle here, this was pointed more down. So when I ended up putting my objects onto this virtual background, they didn't quite look like they worked, not as well as I would have liked. So if you are going to be using a green screen, make sure you plan your background image or environment first, and then line up your cameras to match that. So how do I take all these graphics and actually turn them into a video? I've done this with Clipchamp. It is a free Microsoft product. All you need is a Microsoft account, and you can use it in your browser. So that's all I've done here. And I'm actually going to pull that up and show you how I can take these images and turn them into an animated little scene, animated GIF, or so forth. So this is Clipchamp. It's just app.clipchamp.com. It will probably make you sign in, so you don't need to worry about following along with me today. Just sort of watch what I'm doing, and then when you have pictures ready, you can do the same or watch this back on YouTube, assuming YouTube lets me share it, given that I did have a few other video links shared throughout, so it may yell at me for some copyright by showing those other videos. But hopefully I'll be able to post this. All right, so I'm going to create a new video. It says start from scratch. And when I open that up, I have my environment. First thing I'm going to do is import media. And so I can do it from this button, or if I already have it open in my just regular browser window type, file explorer, that's what it's called. I can click and drag, select all of my images that I've taken. They are in order because of how the file names are alphabetized. And I can just drop them in here, and it will take a second and it will load all of those video files for me. And then I can make sure when I'm looking at them, I want to make sure they're in order. So this is not the order of the animation. Instead, I need to go into sort, and I want them to be sorted by name. And then I can tell whether I want it ascending or descending until I can visually see that they're in the order I want. Once I've done that, this little checkbox here selects all of my images, and I can click and drag them over here into, this is sort of the area of the screen where is your work plane. I bring that in, and right now, if I hit play, it takes a while before it gets to frame number 2. This is not feeling very animated just yet. So what you can do is, I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut here, Control A to select everything. And then you get these little double-sided arrows when you go sort of near these intersections. And I'm just going to pull that way shorter, make each frame shorter. Now in the real animation world, you're normally shooting on 2s, which is out of 24 frames per second. You may be updating a new frame every other one of those. That means you would have 12 frames per second. So if you're taking photos for all of these, you're doing this in a classroom, you may not have 12 frames per second. but I'm just going to sort of shrink them way down. And then you see this trash can here showing up in each of these little gaps. Now, a really good time-saving trick is to right-click on it and say delete all visual gaps. That way, it does all of them at the same time, and you don't have to do it manually. Now, I can come in here and watch it play back, and it's doing better. It's closer to an animation. Still a little slow. So I have a little plus sign over here. I can click and grab everything again, make them even shorter, right click to delete all visual gaps, and just keep adjusting that length until it starts to look a little bit more like an animation. Now, this is sitting on a green screen. This is not in the ocean. How do I add my ocean? To do that, I'm going to go back to import media, only now, oh, all right, I'm going to do it this way again because I already have this pulled up. I'm going to come in here and grab my video file. That is my ocean background. Oh no, I don't have it handy. One moment, it's probably in my downloads. So I'm gonna grab it from there. I am not going to grab it from there. Instead, I'll put it on a weird background. I'm gonna have my nice little DNA come in as my background, and I can just bring this in as a whole nother layer behind it. So now I have a very strange background image, and you can't see it because it's hiding behind. So what I need to do is delete all of this green screen stuff. So with all of my video files selected, you can go over into Effects and scroll down to the green screen one, and then just adjust your threshold until your objects are appearing they hide all the green parts. Now it's not perfect, but it does allow me to stack either videos or images or anything like that. So this is a very silly background, not the ocean I had planned on, but I didn't want to make you all wait till I found that file again. So that's how you would go ahead and create it. There's an export button. You can export it as a video and have that on your computer. Now, another practical tip. The more frames, the smoother the animation will be. Here you can see it with the intended background. The one on the right here has more frames, so it's looking smoother as it moves. This one has half as many frames, so it's very jumpy. But they're otherwise about the same length of time, and it's just a matter of, more pictures, more frames will make for a smoother animation. Some other places you can use 3D printing. You can use them as sets and props. This is a perfect place for 3D printing because then they don't have to be articulated, they don't have to move, but they can help build your world. I searched Dollhouse on Thingiverse again and found a whole bunch of these sort of miniature props that would be perfect for a lot of different stop motions. And then one more practical tip here is to take some tips from the silent era. So this is a full feature-length movie that I'm not going to play, obviously. Okay, so this is stop motion. And then you have live action characters interacting with it. And intertitles tell you what the text is. So of course you could have your students do audio recording and put that over the top, or they can take photos of whatever messages, whatever stories their characters are saying, explanations of what's going on scientifically, right on here as an intertitle. And then the other way you can use 3D printing is as rigs. So you could actually create entire armatures similar to this one from Chicken Run that actually, combines with some wire and some 3D printed type pieces. And then they cover that with clay to move that piece around that way. So last practical tip, if you are doing anything with characters that are, especially if their mouths are moving, now that's advanced level, but act it out. This is a key animators use all the time, is if you're trying to make your characters feel real, step into your acting shoes, pretend you are that character, film yourself doing it, and then you can actually line up what you're doing with the stop motion animation with how it feels with you, the way you're doing it. So I'm hand gesturing all the time. My head's moving back and forth. I'm noticing right now all of the things I do when I talk, and the characters in the movies would do that too. So one last little clip here.
Molly,
Molly.
what are you trying to get across with your puppet?
So I'm trying to get across the kind of innocence and excitement, but also a little bit of self-awareness.
Give as good as you get, eh?
First, she acts out the scene.
I'm Frizzle.
And then you've got to figure out what you do with your body.
So there you can see even the pros, the animators out there are doing this exact same set of processes. So just wanted to share it from the experts. This is, of course, just a little dive into the stop motion animation world, all part of, our Boxlight solution here to have these STEM Wednesdays for you. And I hope you got a lot of exciting ideas and inspiration, as well as a lot of practical tips for how you could do this with your students, whether you are using Boxlight solutions, such as our flat panels, our document cameras, our 3D printers, or not. We just want to make sure that you are having a great time doing fun art integrated, STEM integrated activities with your students. My email address is here on the screen. If you have any follow-up questions, I would love to hear them. So send them my way and I'll be happy to answer. I've also put my email in the chat. So I'll stick around if anyone has questions now. Oh, and I almost forgot, next week, come back for STEM Wednesday with Evan. We're doing more integrated STEAM with our new Explorus device and our Lab Disk device, and even outside of that, talking about ways to integrate music and sound with all sorts of different areas such as math and so forth. So it's going to be a really fun series of lessons or STEM Wednesday on that. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, that was awesome. I'm going to have to make some movies now. Oh, yay. I love all these comments. Thanks, everyone.